what were, sort of your experiences in trying to move an organization? You were bringing in, I know, new innovation, thinking, new practices, processes to drive the enterprise organization forward. Obviously Salesforce was there. Data was a challenge. We were overlaying predictive forecasting. But as you step back, and obviously you've moved ahead and you've seen some of the value of these tools, but what were the key learnings that I think are important for people for recognize if they're going to migrate off of their spreadsheets and let go and move ahead? What are some of the things they need to really keep top of mind here?
Um, yeah, okay. So let me just sort of take a couple of steps back. And Rogers is a company that's been growing and changing, and even still is to this day. And I my time spent at Rogers was really when Rogers was trying to consolidate a whole bunch of disparate businesses into a single Rogers for business. And I think they're pretty well there now, but I can tell you that getting there certainly wasn't easy because of things like legacy systems and data quality and that sort of thing. A funny story. I remember our president one day asked how much business we were doing with a bank. And there was, I don't know, a whole bunch of us in the room. We kind of looked at each other and said, well, we don't know, but we'll get back to you in a week. And, his eyes started to pop. Well, a week, what are you talking about? Well, we've got 7 billing systems. We've got 53 different iterations of this customer. We have to double check all the data. Like, our ability to focus in on an individual customer with all that data was next to nothing because the quality of the data was so poor. And now when you think of that, I mean, it was not only poor, it wasn't necessarily complete,
Mhm.
right? There were different instances across, different business units, and people would focus on what mattered to them. So when you bubble that all up to the top of the organization, you were often hard pressed to get what you really needed. And I think a lot of large companies typically throw people at it, right? Because it's, certainly going back a number of years, it wasn't necessarily as easy to draw the associations that you can with AI, but there was a lot of people working really hard to keep that. So in terms of, some of the key learnings, I'll lean in on the data quality and data completeness. Without that, a lot of the tools that we have today don't even work, right? Like if we don't have the right level of completeness across the organization, if we're reliant on a certain field in our Salesforce, and only half the folks in the company are filling that field, that we're going to have some problems. So the journey at Rogers again was very largely impacted by selling to our internal sales team the value of complete data, the value of putting all of those elements into Salesforce, not just from a reporting perspective, but from their perspective. I talked earlier about relationship maps. It's like, how can we get more engaged in those accounts? We don't know what the value of the account is to the company. Therefore, we don't necessarily know who to bring in. We can't build a creative solution for that customer if we don't know what that customer is doing with us holistically. And as an individual, I'm frustrated when I call my bank and they don't know how much business you're doing with them, or my insurance company or whatever. Like, you would think they would have that handy, but you can imagine when a corporation is calling their service provider and their service provider doesn't even realize that, oh yeah, I'm a data center customer too, or I'm a wireline customer. So we got a lot of that, and customers certainly want to feel like they matter and they're important. Without that data completeness, it was virtually impossible. Without the data completeness, you can't lean in on an AI solution today. So once the sales team was able to see some value, and they had to see their own value, once they were able to see some value in the data completeness, engaging more people in the company in their accounts, making them more successful, we were able to draw more conclusions at a higher level to make structural or foundational changes in the business to
Yeah,
ensure that it would improve moving forward.
yeah, and if we go to the next slide and stay there, Jen, for just a moment, you were really the visionary, Joe, and I just very grateful as a CEO in the sense of you knew that in order to nail, I'm just going to say nail the sales resources, and for managers, they had to understand what were the fields in the AI model that were the most significant, that were contributing to drive an accurate predictive forecast, right?
Mm.
And so building out these constructs, was very much your vision. And we find that in our current accounts that this is the most important view to move organizations ahead. And we all say data quality must be there, or forget about AI. But they need visibility and behavioral accountabilities, right, to move to action. One of the things that we saw in one account was the VP of sales just bringing this view up in their, any call that she had with any of her sales reps or in their ops meetings. And at the end of the day, driving that thoughtfulness that it does need to be a source of truth to align to your commissions, right? And not everybody's got it right yet, right? Because still some people who are really high performers, they're still sandbagging, right? Because they
Mm.
don't want the visibility of what they're doing, right? And that's a whole other behavioral dynamic. Next slide, Jen.
It's always got to be a bit of a carrot and stick as well, Cindy. It's not enough just to say go fill out the data.
Yeah,
That approach kind of works, but you find you really have to um, constantly reinforce that there has to be some value in the again, just using the sales team as an example, there has to be some value for the individual sellers
absolutely.
in completing that data. And as long as you can illustrate what that value is to them and demonstrate that they're going to be better off for the data completeness, that buy-in goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, one of the things that, that is probably the hardest, right? Because, we built out that accountability structure, which says were we right or wrong in predicting the outcome? And so that kind of creates that affirmation. But to your point, which is so crucial, is a sales professional looking at the analytics and thinking and trusting? And it takes time. You kind of get that natural distribution where some people immediately go, huh, this is adds value. Others like to wait and see. But when they start seeing that the ones that are following those triggers and, what are the A's, don't chase the C's, and are actually meeting their quotas consistently, everybody wants to get to President's Club. I mean, that to me has always been my vision is how can you get all these happy salespeople? We all try and hire bright, bushy-eyed people with lots of energy, right? How do you get them all to the win? And I've learned over time that it's not just if you hire good people, the coaching systems, the enablements, but also all of those reaffirmations. AI is really just there as another guiding tool, I think. And you still need to put a lot of emphasis on trusting their own instinct, right? As well. Yeah.
In this particular case, when you've got a lot of opportunities, sometimes it is difficult for an actual AE to have a clear understanding of what all of the opportunities mean to them. So being able to categorize what the actual A opportunities are, I mean, it's hand in hand with your own prioritization of your time, and prioritizing your time where the revenue is, as you said, the way to go to club. So when I talk about the value that you could provide back to the sales team, that was, probably the most important piece, right? I've got a big deal. I want to have the relationships in this company associated with the relationships in that company. I've got many smaller deals. I want to know which ones I need to focus on from an ABC perspective. Maybe I don't have time to look at any of the C deals this month. I need to focus on the A's and B's and make sure that all the relationships and relationship maps make sense and I'm drawing the right people into it. And the reality is, if you're focusing on the A accounts, your success rate improves, your revenue improves, and that was certainly the outcome that we saw there.